Welcome back to Just Scrap Radio on BJPen.com. I'm your host, Cole Shelton, episode 176. We got a good lineup here out of UFC Vegas 97. First up, we're going to be joined by Kyle Nelson to preview his fight against Steve Garcia. This is a really fun and entertaining fight. Kyle was supposed to fight Calvin Kattar on September this week. Kattar got hurt. Kyle said this is actually the second time this fight was booked. The first one never got out there, but it got pushed back to this day. Then Kyle just assumes it was the same injury, so he didn't want to wait anymore, so he took the fight against Steve Garcia, and he knows this is a tough fight. Steve on a nice roll, so is Kyle, but he said it's a good fight. He thinks it's going to be an entertaining fight for the fans, and he believes the winner should get a top 10 guy. And then we close things out talking to Isaac Dulgarian to preview his fight against Brandon Marat. Isaac is approaching me the biggest betting favorite in UFC history here. He's a massive favorite here. Coming off that split decision loss to Christian Rodriguez in a fight, I think a lot of people thought Isaac either won or should have been a draw, but he now fights Brandon Marat, who's 0-1 UFC, got knocked out in 20 seconds of Terrence McKinney last October, dropping down in weight back down to 45. And Isaac, obviously known for those first round finishes, so Isaac's expecting to get him out of there early and kind of get back on track. But be sure to share the show, subscribe, and tune in next week for another episode of Just Scrap Radio. All right, we're jumping UFC featherweight Kyle Nelson, who's back in action here on September 7th. Kyle, how's it going, man?
It's going great. We're getting closer to the fight. It's been a longer training camp, but that just means we have more time to prepare. So yeah, very excited.
First thing I want to get to is, obviously, you're originally supposed to fight Calvin Kattar. I know he had to pull out. How kind of excited and kind of disappointing was that? That was kind of the biggest fight of your career so far, I think it's fair to say, and then to have it kind of taken away a month away from it. How disappointing was that for you?
Yeah, it was. We spent a lot of time specifically preparing for Calvin, and having an opportunity to jump into the top 10 or top 15 like this was definitely exciting. A little unexpected. When we got the call, I wasn't really expecting a top 15 guy, but it felt great to know that the UFC kind of has me. They're looking at me to jump into the top 15, top 10 soon. So that's great. And yeah, I thought Calvin Kattar was a great matchup for me stylistically. I thought we'd put on a great fight, and I thought I had the skill set to beat him. But I guess he's injured or whatever now. So hopefully down the road, it sounds like UFC might come back to Canada hopefully before the end of the year. So maybe Calvin will be ready to go by then. But the opponent switch up to Steve Garcia, I don't think it's too crazy of a style difference. He's, again, more of a striker, more of a boxer as well, a little bit taller and stuff like that. But for the most part, we're still preparing for a striker.
Well, his injury hasn't been made public, so I don't really know what it is. But was there any ever talk at the UFC of just saying, let's kind of delay that a bit if it isn't too serious? Or was it always, did they just kind of say, hey, we're going to keep you on this card?
Yeah, so it was, we were originally scheduled for August 10th, and then it got pushed back, I think, due to an injury. And then I'm assuming it's the same injury that has pulled him out of this date as well. So I think they're unsure of his return. So, and I've been training, I'm ready to go. So, I'd like to get a fight in and turn around and fight again before the end of the year.
Were you surprised it kind of took this long to get booked? I thought after that quick win over Bill, maybe they try to get you back in there. I know obviously you had the kid recently, but I thought maybe they kind of get you back in there pretty quickly.
Yeah, I've none of it makes any sense to me. I know the UFC and the matchmakers, they'll have stuff kind of laid out, how they want it, and when they're coming to Canada or this or that. I wasn't sure why I wasn't on the Toronto card. I thought that was a good opportunity, especially coming off of UFC Vancouver, where we kind of had the shutout. I thought they'd kind of bring us all back. But, the UFC's got their own plans. And as long as I'm getting fights, that's all I really care about.
With Steve Garcia, was this the only name they mentioned? Or was it there kind of a couple? Or what kind of, how'd this fight kind of come together?
Yeah, so we heard that Kattar was injured, and they were going to try and find somebody else. And then they said they had Steve Garcia, and I was like, the name didn't ring a bell. But I was like, yeah, let's do it. Doesn't really matter who it is. I feel so confident in this training camp and where my skill set has been at in my last couple fights, that it didn't really matter who it was. We'd have to make some big adjustments if it was a great wrestler or jiu-jitsu practitioner. But yeah, so I accepted, without even really realizing or recognizing Steve's name. But once we, I looked him up and stuff. Obviously, I recognized him from some of his fights and stuff like that. And yeah, I think it's going to be just as an exciting a fight as the Kattar fight was going to be.
Steve began the UFC career at lightweight, kind of mixed results, and since dropping down to featherweight, undefeated, like knocking everyone out pretty early. So what have you kind of made of his UFC run, where he's kind of feel like he's in his natural weight class here at featherweight?
Yeah, I think he. He's like 6 foot or something, so he's going to be big for featherweight. And he comes on strong, right? Like a lot of his wins are early in the first round. I think with that he's gonna be running into somebody who's very durable in myself. Great defense, striking and wrestling and all that stuff. But yeah, so we're not gonna see him come in and put me away early in the first round. So we're either going to see him come in, try to put me away early and run into a shot, kind of similar to Bill Algeo in my last fight, or we're going to see, him kind of, use up his gas tank in that first round, trying to put me away, and then me finish with a second round TKO.
Over your last couple fights, your cardio has looked a lot better. So do you think the longer the fight goes, the more favor it is for you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, my cardio's great. Everything's dialed in as far as my weight cuts and stuff. So yeah, I can go the 3 rounds for sure, and I think I can keep a higher pace than Steve.
How do you kind of see it playing out then? Like coming off that good knockout, I know you're always kind of searching for that knockout. Steve has been knocked out before. That was that lightweight. How do you kind of see this one playing out?
Yeah, I mean, I see Steve coming forward, just kind of doing what he does. I think I'll land some shots for sure as he comes in. I think I'm going to be a little bit cleaner offensively and a lot stronger defensively as well. So I'm definitely going to hurt him early. It's just going to be whether or not he continues to try and pressure, or if he, kind of gets on his back pedal and starts to move around. So if he stays aggressive, I'll finish him in the first round. And if he slows down, I'll finish him in the second.
Where do you think a win here does, where do you think that does for you? Obviously, they thought highly enough for you last time to book you against a top 15 guy. I'd have to imagine it is a ranked guy if it isn't just getting rebooked against Calvin.
Yeah, I mean, before, after the Bill fight, I'd called out Nate Landwehr. I'd called out Cub Swanson. I called a couple of those guys that aren't quite in the top 15. So I'm not sure where the UFC wants me right now. I'd be happy to rebook the Kattar fight. I know the UFC's, or again, hopefully the UFC's coming to Canada soon. So maybe we could book it for that. If not, again, the Nate Landwehr fight would be great. Or if the UFC wants me against somebody in the top 15, that's fine as well.
Yeah, I know it's Edmonton. It's looking like Edmonton, November 2nd, I think the date is.
Yeah, those are the rumors, I think. Yeah.
Is that kind of perfect timing, just 2 months after that one, or is that kind of pushing it a little bit?
No, it should be perfect timing. Again, my last few fights, in the striking fights, again, my defense is strong enough that I generally don't take too much damage. Even when we go the distance, I'm usually able to get out without anything too crazy happening. So I think I can get through this one for sure and turn around quick.
Is it kind of crazy how much your career's turned around over the last year or two? I think after the Jai fight, you didn't really know if you're still going to be the UFC, and especially against the draw against Choi, it's but you didn't really win. And now here you are, a year and a half after that fight, and you're kind of knocking on the door of that top 10, top 15. It's pretty wild how crazy this sport can change in an instant.
Yeah. I mean, I know myself and my coaches, we all knew kind of my skill set and what I was capable of, and it was just fine tuning some of the other details to get it to work in the UFC with the different notices of fights and stuff. And I think when I fought Jai Herbert again, it was up at 155. We thought maybe that was kind of the answer. Maybe it was something to do with the weight cuts. And again, that fight went great. I was same thing. I was in and out of that fight, like no injuries, like I didn't have a busted nose, nothing like that. And so I knew I could go the distance. I had thought I'd won that fight. A few minor details I think would have solidified it. But yeah, so I know if I could do that, full 3 rounds like that, then I could, if I get back down to 145, I could do the exact same now that the nutrition and the weight cut and all that stuff's dialed in.
Just final thing, like what is the goal then? Like hoping, regardless if you get on that candidate or not, it's just one more in this year to get 3 in.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, ideally, like I'd love to fight 4 times a year. It's just, they just have to be laid out right. Have 2 to 3 months in between, and but yeah. So I think one more after this one for this year would be good, and then hopefully start off 2025 with an early fight in January or February, and then try and get 4 out in that year.
Well, Kyle, I appreciate the time as always. Thanks so much for doing this again.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me on.
All right, we're joined UFC featherweight Isaac Dulgarian, who's back in action on September 7th. Isaac, how's it going, man?
I'm doing all right, man. Been busy as always, but doing well.
Just quickly before we get to your this next one, I want to touch on that last one against Christian. I thought you had won that fight, or I thought at worst case it was a draw. Like, what do you take away from that fight and kind of how the judges saw it?
Yeah, I mean, I think every media outlet that was there scored the fight for me, or a draw. So like 13 people that scored it. So, I mean, I leave that fight knowing I won the fight, but realizing where I need to get better as well. That was my first time fighting 3 rounds. That was my first time getting hit more than once in a fight, So I'm at the highest level in the world, and so I'm learning on national TV, on ESPN. So it's a great experience. I learned a lot from the fight, and I can't hang my head over that one because most of the world thought I won.
That was your first time going out of the first rounds. Like, how much do you think that will help you going forward? We're kind of knowing what those second and third rounds like, because even if you like your amateur career, you hadn't even seen a second round.
I mean, it's just good to feel it in a fight. I get that tired in practice, but it's great to feel it in a fight and push and know that I can do it, and I'm not going to give up on myself. I'm not going to quit. In the third round of my last fight, most people probably would have quit and gave up. But I was completely fine. I was just a little tired. That's all.
And then going into this one, was this about the right time frame, or is this longer than what you thought you'd be off for?
Longer than I thought, but it is what it is, man. I'm ready to fight, and it's actually good because I had my daughter, and I've got to spend a lot of time with the family, and just get settled out here in Colorado completely. So that's nice.
And your opponent, Brendan Marat, like how familiar were you with him?
I seen his fight with Terrence, live, but didn't really know much about him. Didn't even really know he was a 45er. But yeah, they sent me the name, and we said yes.
Yeah, I was looking. He's been fighting at lightweight like his entire career, pretty much. Though, like, do you think he's going to be a lot bigger than you, or do you think that size is going to play much of a role in the fight?
I mean, I don't think it matters. At the end of the day, if you weigh in 145 pounds, we're the same size. So. It is what it is. Some people have tall, long frames. Some people are shorter and stockier like me. We weigh the same. We're gonna weigh in the same the next day, so it's no problem.
How do you see yourself? Like, how do you think you match up against Brendan then?
I think I'm a good matchup for him. I know he's pretty decent striker. He likes to strike, and we don't really have a lot of film on him to go off of, so that's nice because I get to really focus on myself and what I'm doing, and I think that's the biggest thing in this fight.
How do you kind of see this one playing out then?
I mean, I guess he thinks he's going to finish the fight early, so we'll see about that. We'll see who finishes it early. I think I can finish the fight early. I think I can drag this fight out. Whatever happens, happens, and, I'm just hoping to show that I'm the better fighter on September 7th.
Change anything in camp for this one or bring anyone different? Is it the same kind of guys you've been always working with?
Same team, Chris Gutierrez, Yusuf Zalal, Markel Maderos, all those guys, I train with them every day, and, same stuff, just learning new stuff and getting better, man. Been training a lot with Mark, getting a lot of good sessions in with Coach Montoya, and, I think it's going to pay dividends this fight.
And how much confidence does that give you seeing the success? Like Chris just had a good performance. Yusuf, since he's came back in the UFC, has looked unreal. Like how much confidence does that give you where you see the guys you're working with putting like how much success they're having in their recent fights?
Oh man, both those guys are the best in the world. So, getting to train with them every day is a great thing, and it helps me know where I'm at. Like I know exactly where I'm at, and where I can be. So, it's just about sticking around and winning fights.
You get an early finish here. Like, are you hoping you can get one more? And do you think this is probably it for you then this year?
No, I'm hoping to possibly get one more this year. I'm ready to go as long as I get out of the fight healthy and no injuries pop up. Then I think we'll be ready to rock.
Where do you think a win here puts you? Like featherweight is pretty deep, but like I think a lot of people thought you won that fight, and like you'd be what 3-1 in the or 2-1 in the UFC with the wins. Like where do you think that kind of puts you in the division?
I mean, in a good spot. Hopefully I finish my first contract with a good performance this fight, and get bigger and bigger fights, more money, and I don't know. I think it's the UFC. They want to see me successful. That's why they gave me this fight, and I think as long as I do that, they're going to be happy and give me a good fight.
Is there any pressure on you, like coming off that first career loss? Like we've seen some guys, they rebound really well after that. Some guys kind of go down a hole after losing, and it kind of hurts their confidence. Like, is there any pressure to kind of get back on
No,
the
not
script?
really. Not really, because the thing is like we talked about earlier, I won the fight fair and square. I won the fight in the way that it scored. So it is what it is. I can't control what three people that have never fought seem to think about a fight because they've never done it, and they get to tell me if I won or lost. So that's what's crazy about MMA. And all I can say is I should have done more, and keep moving forward.
Does that give you like some added pressure of like just not go to the scorecards again, so that won't happen to you?
No, I don't think that should ever happen to me. I think I won the first two rounds pretty easily, and the third round didn't go my way. But it's hard to win every round at the highest level of fighting. So I lose one round, that doesn't mean I'm a loser or mean that I lost the fight. So it doesn't really change much for me. It's just it's experience, which is exactly what I needed.
Just final thing, like what is kind of the goal then for you going forward after this one?
Just get a good finish. I have some great sponsors backing me this fight, and they have put a lot into me this camp. A lot of good things that I wasn't getting prior to this camp. So just really grateful, and I think just putting on a show and performing, I think I could change my life.
Well, Isaac, I appreciate the time as always. Thank you so much for doing this again.
Yeah, thank you, brother. Anytime.